Tally-ho, Jules Guides here, in which I wander around London and tell you fascinating facts. And today we're going for a little walk along the river. I hope you're keeping safe and well. Obviously, due to present circumstances, I've had to cobble together things the best I could. So there are some old clips, but there's also some new clips as well. So I hope you'll enjoy joining me for what I like to call Jules's London lockdown walk along the river.
After 3 weeks of lockdown, the familiar outlines of London seem much the same. But there are many new and unfamiliar sights in the streets. Oxford Street. Why not take your girl out to buy a new handbag or motor car? Not tonight, Joe. Selfridge department store for all your daily needs, closed. London's busiest shopping thoroughfare is deserted. Affairs of state in Whitehall have a new urgency, for here is the organising centre of the British Commonwealth and the free world, at war with a new virus. Sentries present arms, but no tourists present cameras, as even Big Ben is wearing a mask. A monstrous spectre overhanging the deserted Parliament Square. But Downing Street, resolute as ever, as the Prime Minister of this great nation falls victim to the invisible enemy. But by George he'll battle, as will all Londoners, that we might once again see these very streets overcrowded with the smiling faces of people staring at their phones and getting in the way.
In case you're wondering, we are actually allowed out, but we're only supposed to go out once a day for essential items at the shop or for daily exercise. So mine is walking along the river. So I'm just starting down here in Embankment Gardens. It's so pretty here. All the flowers are out, the tulips are there. I suppose there's no vandals to destroy them all, but it's really beautiful. And over there, they've got one of those Cabman Shelters, which I really like. And there's still 13 of them around London, dotted around, but you're only allowed in if you're a taxi driver. They were installed in 1875 so that taxi drivers could get good and wholesome refreshments at moderate prices. They've even still got the bar around the edge for tying your horse onto. Anyway, I've got a video about that, so you can watch that another time. I'm heading over there to Joseph Bazalgette, because I'm kind of channeling his facial hair at the moment. It's a pity he's stuck all the way over there, sort of hidden away underneath the bridge. He's such an important character in English history. I do like Joseph Bazalgette. Now that's what I call a moustache. Now the reason he's down here can be explained in one of my vintage Jules guides. Now, before this dude came along, the whole of the River Thames was pretty much an open sewer. And the last straw came in 1858 when the hot summer caused what they called the Great Stink. People used to douse their curtains in disinfectant and sit behind them because they couldn't stand the smell. Eventually, because the Houses of Parliament are situated right on the river, they decided to commission Joseph Bazalgette to do something about it. The Houses of Parliament, they all said, oh, well, you know, now this really is a little bit too much. Oh, I thought you said you remembered that. You look a bit young for that. 1858. Now, Sir Joseph narrowed the river, which caused the river to flow much more quickly, and it carried off all the sewage. And actually, by 1874, he had actually built a whole sewage system all the way along underneath here. And to get an idea of just how wide the river used to be, you have to come along here to this very beautiful gate. All along here would have been beautiful, big, grand estates, and this one was the entrance to York House, home of the Duke of Buckingham in the 1620s. I would have now been standing in the river, but all the way across there, that's where the river is now, just after all those cars. The river used to come all the way up to there, and you could step out and go off down the smelly, detritus-ridden river. So George Villiers, the Duke of Buckingham, was actually the lover of King James I, they said. When he died, he wanted all the streets around here to be named after him. No, it's part...
Why is it called formerly of Alley?
Because
it's named after a person.
Each street around here is named after George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham. It used to be called of Alley, so it's got George Villiers Street, of Alley, Buckingham Street. This used to be Duke Street, but they've changed it. So, George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham.
It should be called Piss Alley.
Yeah, I know, it does.
Buckingham Palace. The one fixed point in a changing age. The Union flag indicates the Queen is not here. Probably at her second home. It's all right for some. There's an east wind blowing just the same. Such a wind as never blew on England yet. It will be cold and bitter, and a good many of us may wither before its blast. But it's God's own wind nonetheless, and a greener, better, stronger land will lie in the sunshine when the storm is cleared.
Now over here is a very interesting artefact which people call Cleopatra's Needle, even though I don't think it's got anything to do with Cleopatra. She may have seen it though. And I do go into further detail in another Jules guide. I met a traveller from an antique land who said 2 vast and trunkless lakes of stone stand in the desert. This vast and trunkless obelisk was originally stood in Heliopolis in Egypt in 1475 BC, so that makes it pretty much the oldest outdoor artefact in London. Everyone's just walking past it, but it's actually 3,000 years old. I mean, that's pretty impressive. The Emperor Augustus transferred it to Alexandria, where it fell over and lay in the sand for about 200 years or something, and eventually, in about 1819, Muhammad Ali gave it to the Brits. Not that Muhammad Ali, the Viceroy of Egypt. This is all shrapnel from the war, but it's not actually the Second World War, it's from the First World War. Amazing. It took them ages to get it over here. They hit a storm in the Bay of Biscay and only just managed to salvage the obelisk, but it almost sunk and they lost loads of men. And eventually, by 1878, it was put up here as the magnificent erection that you see before you. Walk like an Egyptian. I love the way there are little sphinxes on all the benches around here as well, with bosoms. Some have got camels on as well. Do you know what the camels are for?
I don't have a clue what the camels are.
I think it's something to do with the Imperial Camel Corps formed in the First World War. They served in the Middle East. I like London for all these quirky little things because you can easily miss them.
I had never noticed there was a camel there, I have to admit.
Not very many of
But
them.
really, I mean, look at the size of the thing. Coming all the way over here from Egypt in those days.
There's a time capsule underneath which has things like various Bibles, coins, newspapers from the day, and interestingly, photographs of the 14 most beautiful women in Britain. Who do you reckon would be in it today? Lucy Wolseley. Yeah. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. I think the sphinxes are facing the wrong way. Aren't they supposed to be facing away from the needle?
It didn't come with a manual. It'd be like a big slab with hieroglyphics on it. It'd be like an IKEA manual, but it'll be in hieroglyphics.
Yes, Vlogstan, I'm afraid, today. These are rather nice. I do like these lampposts with the nice fish on them. I think they were designed, what's his name? Is it John Viami? He was the architect who also did the sphinxes the wrong way around over there. And all these lovely benches with the sphinxes on and with the camels on. And just beyond there is Waterloo Bridge, the Woman's Bridge. You have a woman's bridge, my lady. They call it the Woman's Bridge because in the Second World War it was rebuilt by women. And when they completed it, the man from the council came along, he stood up and he said, "The men who built this bridge shall be remembered with fondness forevermore." But out of order. It's also where Georgy Markov, the Bulgarian dissident, was stabbed with a poisoned umbrella in 1978, was it? 82, around then.
One day on the Thames, we took a boat under the Blackfriars Bridge, and throughout the years we kept our love afloat, messing about in the mist.
Right, now just here, it's just quite near to Temple Station. Isambard Kingdom Brunel. He really was a prolific civil engineer of the 19th century. He built the Great Western Railway, tunnels, bridges, and he also did the first propeller-driven steamship that went across the Atlantic, the SS steamship Great Britain. The best thing about him is his name's Isambard, which means that if he went to the SS Great Britain steamship in Bristol, he would be admitted for free, because if you can prove your name is Isambard, you're allowed to go inside for free.
London town, we spent our lives larking around. London town, I love you, I was born on this ground.
It's not open now, obviously. It's another one of these Cabman Shelters. Now, you're only allowed inside it if you're a taxi driver, but normal folk like you and me can go and order a cup of tea or something outside. I do believe that Frank Sinatra went into one once, and also Winston Churchill. The last time I checked, neither of them drove a cab, unless I'm mistaken. Now, anyway, look over here, Surrey Street. There is a Roman bath. I'm not even sure it is a Roman bath. But anyway, Vintage Joolz went there some years ago.
But this ain't Palm Springs, it's London.
And even though I've lived here all my life, I'm constantly discovering new things, like behind this beautiful old building in Surrey Street is an old Roman bath. Now, if it's actually closed and you can't be bothered to make an appointment, you can look at it through the window over here. I think it is important to note that it might not actually be a Roman bath.
So you have to call the number. There's just the number on the door. It's called a Roman bath, but it isn't. It's a Tudor bath. But the Tudors were trying to make it sound better than it was by calling it a Roman bath.
Oh, I don't believe this.
No, I quite agree with you.
I don't believe it at all.
Here we go. We're in. The chap's here. It really smells quite authentic down here. There's some lovely tiles and stuff on the walls in here.
The bricks are not Roman bricks, they're Tudor bricks. And it's still working, but it was a Tudor bath.
It still flows. The spring still flows, but only a little bit of a trickle. Reminds me of me some nights. Now, there is mention of this bath in David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. David Copperfield came to visit here and took a plunge. Presumably Charles Dickens also visited. But originally it wasn't actually built as a bath, it was a feeder system for a sumptuous fountain in the local area. Yeah. After the fountain was closed, it fell into disuse, but it was reopened in 1776 as an actual bath, and people did used to come and plunge here. Someone died in here of a chill. He was an MP. A chap by the name of William Weddell died in these very baths in 1792, and they were actually still in operation at the end of the 19th century. You could still come in.
It kind of clashes with Queen Elizabeth I's idea that she baths once a year and no other time. The idea that Londoners were taking these baths.
I take a bath on Saturday night whether I need it or not.
Yeah.
It's not a Roman bath at all.
Well, that's all right. It's still a Tudor bath. But I thought it was rather interesting.
It would have been interesting had it been a Roman bath.
It's interesting though, isn't it? It's kind of cool. And we're just coming up to 2 Temple Place, which was the house of William Waldorf Astor, the richest man in America and the inventor of the Waldorf salad. Well, I don't know if he invented that, but it was the Waldorf Astoria he was famous for. And if you've seen my Weather Vanes film, you will know all about my favourite weather vane, which is the Santa Maria there. That's the ship that Christopher Columbus sailed to America in. Sometimes it's open for exhibitions. They've got a beautiful staircase with characters from the Three Musketeers, friezes and frescoes depicting the last of the Mohicans, kings and queens. See that little fella there? He's on the telephone, celebrating the advent of the telephone. And he built it around the end of the 19th century when he emigrated to Britain so that he wouldn't have his children kidnapped. Obviously knew something about British people that I don't know.
We took in the sights, the London delights, including an old Roman bar. The world rolled on by in the blink of an eye. Joseph Bazalgette laughed, laughed, Joseph Bazalgette.
When you see the dragon, it usually means that you're entering the city of London, as defined by the Romans, the old city which had the wall around it. And many London guides will tell you the monarch has to ask permission from the Lord Mayor of London. But that is what is commonly known as bollocks, because when William the Conqueror came to defeat the English, and he beat King Harold at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, he headed north, ransacking villages, and he was going to ransack London, although they surrendered anyway, and he said, you know what, I quite like the way things are being done here. So he decided that it would be a good idea to preserve all their rights and freedoms, as long as they acknowledge that he is king and don't give him any trouble. So it's actually just a ceremony that takes place. So the Lord Mayor offers the Queen a pearl-encrusted sword or something. He's surrendering his arms to her to say, you are in charge, but you may come in all the same. And she says, I know I can come in, I'm the bloomin' Queen. What are you going to do about it? Well, over here, these are excellent. Look, it's essentially what Doctor Who goes around the universe in. They used to be. This is essentially what his TARDIS is based on. He goes whizzing around the galaxy in a police box, because originally you could get all sizes, and if you were very naughty they could actually lock you up inside the police box whilst they went off and got backup. If the light on top of it was flashing, the policeman would run up and open up the little door and pick up the telephone, and he'll be told about where there's a crime going on in the area. They sort of died out around the 1960s, but there's still a few of them knocking around, and these ones are in quite good condition. This is where they were supposed to have the Garden Bridge. I'm sure the Garden Bridge was supposed to go across around here. Never got built in the end. I think a lot of money got wasted, actually. Oh, I can see the pub from here. That's one of my favourite pubs, actually. I really like the Blackfriars, and it can only indicate that we are at Blackfriars Bridge. I thoroughly recommend a drink in there if it were open, but instead I'll have to leave you with a vintage Joolz guide about Blackfriars. Back in the 13th century, an order of monks called the Blackfriars set up a monastery around here. You see these bits that you can see all along the bridge are sort of modelled on pulpits. There's a sort of reference to the time when monks used to inhabit this whole vicinity. You can still see the remnants of the old bridge there, because this was sort of rebuilt around the middle of the 19th century. And in 1982, this was the place where Roberto Calvi was found hanging from the bridge. He was called God's banker. They found him hanging with, like, he had £14,000 stuffed in his pockets and bricks. Now, Roberto Calvi was known as God's banker because he was the chairman of the biggest private bank in Italy called Banco Ambrosiano that was used by the Vatican. Now, the Vatican were kind of massive shareholders in this bank, but he was on the run from some sort of embezzlement charge, and he was a member of a Masonic lodge. They referred to themselves as the Frati Neri, which is in Italian means the Blackfriars. The weird thing was that the day before he was hanged, his private secretary jumped out of her window in her office in Italy, and apparently she left a suicide note, but it sounds a bit dodgy to me. Yeah, they never caught the culprits. Ah, the Tate Modern Art Gallery. Actually, Bankside Power Station used to be a power station designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott. He was the guy who also designed the telephone box, in case you cared. And I think Liverpool Cathedral, I might be wrong. It is, of course, now the Tate Modern Art Gallery, and actually up at the top there you get a really great view. They've got a viewing platform. It's free to go up there, although the lifts take blooming ages to come because people get out every single floor. And ahead of us is the Millennium Bridge, the scene of much kite selling for me over the years. If ever you walked over the Millennium Bridge and saw a bloke selling kites, that probably was me. This is the Millennium Bridge, which any tour guide will tell you is known as the Wobbly Bridge. Have you heard of the chewing gum man of old London town?
I've not, no.
He's not a man who's just fallen over and died. He paints all the little bits of chewing gum all over London. Have you seen the chewing gum painter?
No.
Look, you see these? When the police come, he says, I'm not vandalising, I'm actually painting the chewing gum.
That's a good idea.
Hello, sir.
Hi there.
He's covered in paint. What do the police say? Do you ever have trouble from it?
I did actually get taken to Snow Hill Police Station, which is the local station. And my DNA was taken by force. I was processed, but I'm still here.
They'll never take you alive.
Yeah, they won't. The trail is complete, the chewing gum trail. It goes from one end of the bridge to the other, taking the rubbish and transforming it into art. So it's a form of recycling.
Not doing any vandalism.
Lovely thing out of a bad thing.
I've never seen a guy up here selling kites. I'm thinking of
Oh yeah, God.
There's a bloke normally selling kites around here. Oh, there he is down there.
All the rage down our way.
Excuse me, can I have one of your excellent kites, please?
Oh, yes, certainly. Which colour would you like?
Superb. A special edition Take Me to Pitcairn kite.
Is that okay?
Thanks very much.
Kites for sale. All the rage down our way.
Towards our brand new place.
Poor chap. It's quite difficult for beggars to make any money at the moment because everyone's gone contactless. No one wants to carry change or exchange money because no one wants to touch it. So they're all using their contactless payment cards. I remember actually when I came down here and pretended to be a beggar to do some Shakespeare.
You're in the records now.
Yeah. You're recording me?
Yeah.
It's like me not for my complexion. The shadowed livery of the burnished sun, to whom I'm a neighbour and near bred. Bring the fairest creature northward born, where Phoebus' fire scarce thaws the icicles. And let us make incision for your love, to see whose blood is redder, his or mine. I tell thee, lady, this aspect of mine hath feared the valiant. By my love I'll swear, the best regarded virgins of our clime have loved it too. I would not change this hue, except to steal your thoughts, my gentle queen.
Just goes to show how tough it is. I mean, I thought I was pretty convincing actually. My friend always told me I look like a homeless person. But no, not a single penny. Maybe they knew. It's claimed that this house here next to Cardinal Cap Alley was the one where Catherine of Aragon stayed when she came to London to first meet King Henry VIII, but I don't think the architecture looks quite right somehow. They also say that Sir Christopher Wren stayed there when he was overseeing the building of St Paul's Cathedral. More realistic, I think, that one.
London town, we spent our lives larking around. London town, I love you, I was born on this ground.
Yes, the globe, of course, behind me was originally on the other side of the river see my film about Hoxton, Shoreditch. It was originally up there, but I think they had some trouble with the landlord, so they broke it all down, brought it over this side of the river, where rents and I don't know, laws weren't so strict. Sam Wanamaker, the actor, he was over here one time, and he got a call from one of his mates in America and said, hey, don't come back to America. because you're on this blacklist for the McCarthy witch hunt. So he said, oh, bloody hell, I better not go back to America. So he stayed here. And he said, goddamn Brits don't even have a Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. So he decided to build this replica here, because the original one burnt down first, actually around 1613. Then they rebuilt it, and then I think Oliver Cromwell broke it down. He didn't like theatres or beer, drinking. It was a bit of a sourpuss, old Oliver Cromwell. Up until 1750, the only way you could get across the river was by London Bridge. Just after the Globe Theatre is this rather interesting little seat here in the wall. This is called the ferryman's seat, but in those days they called them water ferrymen or wherrymen. They would hang around here smoking their clay pipes all night, waiting till the theatre's chucked out, and then offer lifts across on their water taxis to the north side of the river, the more civilised side. I'm gonna sit down. Cool, bum that. It's about big enough for one buttock.
One buttock on.
Armadillo's noses, weasel's ears, water taxis. This part of town was pretty dingy, and it must have been pretty horrible work being hanging around here waiting until all the bear baiting pits and brothels and stuff started chucking out. And all the sewage from the river, it must have stunk pretty badly. Just a stone's throw from here, there's actually quite an interesting thing as well. This is a French cannon from the Battle of Trafalgar. It's an original French cannon captured at the Battle of Trafalgar. No one cares, it's really weird. I think it's really cool. That's probably killed people, this. Yeah. All the bollards used to be made out of these French cannons, but now they've just run out. So they've got to use replicas. But this is an original.
Looks a bit like you.
Yeah.
It looks like you've been burned to a crisp or something like that, doesn't it? London this, London that. Hello, how interesting. Let me show you around.
It might have been a Spanish cannon, might not have been a French cannon. But actually, well, if you wanted to get one of these boats, a lot of the wherrymen would stand there shouting, oars, oars. But because there were so many brothels around it, people thought they were shouting, whores, whores. Which they might well have been, actually. Perhaps the saddest sight of all, the pub all boarded up and closed. This was actually where Samuel Pepys sat and watched London burn. And more importantly, Tom Cruise sat just up there and had a pint at the end of Mission Impossible, the first one. You see, more of these cannons. Well, they might be replicas, but that's the reason why all these bollards are that shape these days.
The cinemas of Leicester Square are closed as precautions for the safety of London are maintained. Though scarred, London still presents a smiling face. The defiant symbol of victory and the indomitable spirit of Londoners protecting their right to exist. This little island is still on the map. This fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war. This precious stone set in a silver sea. This blessed plot. This earth. This realm. This England.
The Bishop of Winchester's palace. He used to be in charge of the whole area around here. It was known as the Liberty of the Clink. Liberties, they're like enclaves where different rules apply and stuff. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, I do apologise. Oh, we mustn't forget the Golden Hind, a replica of Sir Francis Drake's ship, in which he circumnavigated the globe. He was unofficially backed by Queen Elizabeth I, but she did encourage him to try and put an end to any Spanish interests if he could. In fact, he did capture a Spanish galleon, which at the time was the largest treasure haul of its age. Gave some of it to the Queen, I think he could keep some, and he got a knighthood for his pains. And just past the Golden Hind is Borough Market. Now, if you happen to be in London Bridge, don't forget to come and visit Borough Market. There's been a market here since about the 12th century or so. London Bridge used to be the main entrance into London, so a market sprung up here selling things like grain and livestock. And the best days to come are on Friday and Saturday. These are genuinely the best sausage rolls in London. Can I have one of your finest sausage rolls, please? Thank you. Look at that. Check this out.
That is something else.
Quality.
Wild rabbits, they're from Sussex. I've got the French farm ones, they're a bit more like chicken.
Get 2 venison burgers and 2 of the duck burgers.
Because it's run by a charity, everything's ethically sourced, and there's a panel of judges who taste all the food on the market, and they make sure that it's all up to a certain standard.
We're here selling organic iced tea from Sri Lanka. We make our own sugar syrup, and our Earl Grey also has lime peel, but it's naturally low in caffeine. And then we garnish it with mint and lemons. It's delicious.
I can actually smell these from here. It's really amazing, isn't it? This is the Globe pub, which is actually a very nice old pub, but it also happens to be where Bridget Jones lives in the film Bridget Jones's Diary.
We've got confit duck sandwich from the southwest of France, salted for a couple of days and then cooked for between 5 and 9 hours.
Delicious.
Good time to do my shopping, I suppose. It's open because it's a market and it's selling food. Huh. Oh well, at least there aren't loads of crowds. Thanks for watching. Sorry this video is a bit cobbled together. Traditionally I usually finish in the pub, but of course the pub is closed like everything else. So I just say cheers, and if you want to find out more about me, head over to my website joolzguys.com, where you can see lots of other videos. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I've got lots of videos about London, and they're all a lot better edited than this one. Cheers, see you next time folks. Stay well.
London town.